Today, I'll be revealing 3 altcoins which I think could outperform the market over the next couple months. There is a key price level that I'll be showing you that if this altcoin breaks, I think there is a large chance we do see continuation to the upside. And I want to share my theory behind it and why I think this narrative could be strong over the next month. As you know, we kind of go into the Ethereum merge here. So I want to share that trade with you. But before we get into that, let's go through the Ethereum price right now, which is just hovering on support. A couple higher lows on this diagonal support line. It did enter my green box. This is kind of like my last resort box in terms of, you know, where the liquidity needs to come down and fill based on the fair value gap. This is the box I am currently looking at. Obviously, that next level that we're looking at is 1420. If we do drop down this past this diagonal support and we can't hold here, then I am expecting a retest of this 1425 level. Quite a strong level for Ethereum, one that obviously, you know, served as a rejection earlier in the month. And obviously, it also served as support for this latest rally up into this upwards portion of the channel here. So this is what I'm seeing on the Ethereum chart. Nothing much else to report apart from the fact we're just holding, and that is my level in case we get a breakdown. But Rand did a tweet that kind of annoyed me a little bit. He said, obviously he was talking about the trading competition that we're about to start. And he said, I'll also beat Sheldon, Kyle, and Miles. And then in the research call last night, he did his rankings of who he thought would win the trading competition. And he said, you know, Sheldon, and then, you know, maybe Hustle. And then, you know, obviously he's first. And then he put me dead last. Dead last, guys. Rand literally thinks I'm the worst trader at Banter. And I'm going to prove him wrong. And I'm going to prove him wrong live on this show because I've got a trade for August. It's a longer trade. It may not win me this competition, but it may win me some respect. A longer trade over the period of August going into September that I think could pay off. Now, if it doesn't pay off, we're going to have a very tight stop loss and we're going to have a very tight sell condition, which means we're not risking too much capital. But if it does pay off, I think that this could be one of the stronger narratives going into September. And maybe it'll help me win this trading competition because the lack of disrespect is crazy. But, you know, I think I do have a good chance of winning here and kicking Sheldon's ass, kicking Kyle's ass. And obviously, you know, the one we really want to take down is Rand after very annoying tweets like this. But if you do want to sign up to this competition, you guys can actually get involved as well. Obviously, the hosts will be trading against each other for the month of August. I think it starts in a day's time. And obviously, we have a $100,000 prize pool, guys. Like, literally, BYBIT gave us $100,000 to give away. If you want to look at how that is actually distributed, there is a price graph down here. But basically, all you need is $250. So if you have $250 in your BYBIT account, that's the minimum you need. And if you have that in your account, then you can trade with us and you could potentially win $100,000. The other cool thing is it's not based on dollar amount. So obviously the top 10 wins prizes out of 663 people, but the top 10 don't have to win based on dollar amounts. You can actually win on percentage amount, which means, you know, if you do start with 250, you have a fighting chance. It's actually a fair race. You're not going to be kind of fighting with these whales to win prizes. So honestly, guys, 663 participants, it's not actually a lot. And there's 10 winners. So 10 out of 663, if you're a half decent trader, or even if you just give it a crack, that's actually a decent chance of coming top 10 here. So to actually sign up for this competition, there's a link in the description. It's the top link of the description. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a live trading show for like 24 hours. You guys know that I'm about to reveal one of my big trades for August, or one that I'm prepping and currently setting up based on the narrative that I'm identifying right now. That could very well feature in this. And remember, you can register up until August 27th, but the earlier you start, you know, the better it is for you guys in terms of actually being able to rank top 10. So sign up for that first link in the description. Remember to sign up for the competition to win $100,000 or a percentage of that. You need a BYBIT account. So you need a Banter referred BYBIT account. That's also a link in the description. If you sign up using my link, then you can get a $4,200 bonus and also gain eligibility for the competition. So yeah, sign up for a BYBIT account using my link. And then if you sign up for an account, then you can head over to this first link and click on register now and actually sign up for the competition. Make sure you do this, guys, because it's going to be a lot of fun over the next couple of weeks. And today's show marks the beginning of my plans for this trading comp. So without further ado, let's get into it and let's go through these plans. So my plans actually revolve around a conference that's upcoming. We know how powerful trading the news, buying the rumor, selling the news is in crypto. And I'm kind of going to go through like a 1 to 2 month trade in this video and kind of explain my logic behind it. Now, it may not pan out, but if it does, there is significant upside in my opinion, and it relies on a couple theses. So the first thing I'm going to do is run you through the historical price performance of altcoins heading into conferences to kind of frame my logic, and then explain the buy levels I'm looking at, which coins I'm looking at, and then also, what our invalidation is. So you guys have a much broader picture of how this trade may actually operate. So the first thing I want to say is it revolves around the Near ecosystem, due to the fact that the NearCon, one of its first massive conventions, is on September 11th to the September 14th. So this is in a month and 7 days' time. But you guys know with conferences, you have to start prepping for the hype a little bit early. You can't just trade this narrative a week before the conference because we know that's too dangerous. If we play a slightly longer game when it comes to prepping for these conferences, you can significantly increase your chances of success because we can actually identify buy and sell zones ahead of time to get a higher percentage chance of actually accumulating at good levels. So this is the NearCon on September 11th to September 14th. Why am I trading this conference? A couple of reasons. The first reason is there are going to be some big announcements as usual. They've got some pretty strong partners going, to pretty strong guest list of speakers, and I'm seeing a bit of hype on Twitter about some big announcements coming with some of these altcoins, but it hasn't really kicked off yet. I've only seen a few tweets, so I think that these announcements will come more so to fruition towards the back end of August, early into September. If we look at previous conferences, I'm going to go through three. I'm going to go through what happened to the AVAX conference, to the Polkadot conference, to the Ethereum conference, to get a better idea of how price action behaves leading up to big announcements. So if we go, because right now we're roughly a month before the conference, if we go a month before the AVAX conference, we could see that we actually did pump substantially. So what I've done is I've drawn the blue line on each of these altcoins to show you the date of when the conference started. So this blue line is the night before every conference started on every chart, just so we're clear. Now, if we actually go back and we take somewhere in this region here, the month before the conference, so the conference was on the 21st of March. If we take it from the 21st of February, just to be fair and even with all our altcoins, we could see that the price pumped 18%. Now, that was if you bought on the 21st of February. If you DCA'd in, let's say you'd bought a little bit a month before, a little bit a few weeks before, a little bit a few days before, you probably would have gotten an entry price in around this region, considering we had a few wicks to the downside. So let's just logically assume you got in at these levels, then you would have made a 20% trade on AVAX. If you look at the ecosystem, oftentimes it pumps a little bit harder than the L1 itself. So that's just AVAX. This was in a very weak market, by the way. AVAX did pump into the conference despite a very choppy and weak market. Now, what happened is post-conference, AVAX actually dumped. And we saw the last day of the conference to a week later was minus 11% before it started pumping again. Now, this was generally market related, so I don't think we can take it as the sole variable here, but I think it's important to note what actually happened after having that little sell-off. Let's look at DOT, because we can't just look at one example. We've got to look at a few to start to paint the trend here. Off the top of my head, Phantom in October, you guys know, pumped in the lead up, then sold off afterwards. If we look at the DOT conference, exact same thing. So we got June 29th here. If we take it from a week earlier, not a whole month. If we take it from a whole month, obviously it was down versus the conference, but extreme down market in June. You guys know exactly what happened in June. I don't need to remind you. But even despite the bear market, 2 weeks before the conference, lows to the conference date was 23%. If you took the middle, let's say, you don't quite get the bottom, lows to the conference date was 7% in a down market. So obviously, we had that massive wick down. This was the whole 3AC liquidation event, Luna into 3AC. If you take it a month before, yeah, okay, you would have lost money. You would have lost around 40%. But I mean, it's a crazy bear market. So I'm just taking the most recent example to kind of give you guys an idea of how price performance works in a bear market. Now, I don't want to put in any confirmation bias here. What does DOT tell us? And I have it in here for a very important reason. DOT tells us that even with a conference coming up, the price won't pump if the general market conditions is in a downtrend or is bearish. Now, DOT may have outperformed the market during this period. It may have pumped harder than other altcoins during this period, but it does rely on the general market sentiment being positive, because if Ethereum's tanking and DOT has a conference, it doesn't matter if there's a conference, it's going to tank anyway, right? And the same thing is with this near trade that I'm going to get into. If there's a conference and Bitcoin's tanking and Ethereum's tanking, then obviously, even with good news coming out, it won't matter. It'll just get absorbed by the market. And then maybe when the market recovers, then we'll start to see some positive price action. But we can see the price action still, even in a bear market, was positive in the weeks prior. And I'll get into what I think obviously will happen to NEAR and the key levels in a second. Ethereum, leading up to the ETH merge, ETH Paris was on July 19th. I have this blue line here for the Ethereum chart. If we go a month earlier to June 19th, I mean, this one's kind of crazy. This one is at the bottom of this wick. That was an 80% trade, guys, if you got Ethereum a month before Paris. That was the bottom of the alt. So maybe you'll argue, okay, that's not really that relevant. It was the bottom. So let's take it from the wick top of the range to be a lot more fair. It's still pumped, even from wick top to current levels, 24%, Ethereum being the leader of the market, following ETH Paris, because obviously there was a lot of hype to the merge being announced, etc., just as all conferences kind of operate. So I could give you 10 examples here. The common trend is I've been through like 10 conferences. I picked a few that I think were unique to show you today. But basically all of them pumped in the month leading up, had a significant pump in the weeks leading up. I think you'll see the price action the week prior is usually the strongest. The month prior, it's a little bit harder because, you know, there's market conditions which can affect the early parts of the month. The week prior, which is obviously a condensed range, which is giving you less leeway for any market dumps, that week typically shows the strongest price performance, with AVAX in that last week pumping 30%, with DOT in the week leading up. Let's take it June 28th to June 21st. 2%. The day later, obviously, was 7%. Ethereum, obviously, you know, the week before to the current levels of the conference for 50%, etc. You get the point. Fighting that bearish trend, which is a very valuable lesson for us to learn and take into consideration when trading NEAR. So what actually is the NEAR play here, given what these other altcoins have done during their lead ups to the conferences? Because it's not a sure thing. Okay, let's go through what my thesis for NEAR is. There's two things. Let's focus on NEAR first, and then let's get into the ecosystem. The NEAR trade itself, probably the better risk-reward play because it's the main L1 of the NEAR ecosystem. What I think will happen is the NEAR trade does rely on one thing, and that is the Ethereum merge. We can see through the Bitcoin dominance, through the Ethereum dominance, that Ethereum is the leader of the market right now. We got this market rally because of the hype going into the merge, because of ETH Paris, and that's basically the leader of the market. Now, we can see this clearly on the charts. Ethereum has been leading. It's been showing the most strength. Bitcoin honestly looks kind of weak on the 4-hourly, and we can see the BTC dominance continues to trend down off the back of this Ethereum strength. Now, if Ethereum leads the altcoins for NEAR, we need Ethereum to have a strong August and a strong early part of September leading into the merge on September 19th in order for these altcoins to perform. So if you're trading this conference hype, then you're trading it on the basis of the fact that Ethereum will behave positively in the lead up to the merge. Now, on the Ethereum chart, of course, there could be downside in the short term to this 1425 region. But if we can get a bounce there, and if we can continue steam throughout the month of August, then potentially we will see these other altcoins rally as well. Now, Ethereum has rallied much, much, much more than some of these other ecosystems like NEAR, which I think makes trading kind of this conference news a little better risk reward than maybe it would be on something like Ethereum, because Ethereum, the merge is kind of priced in, everyone's talking about it. Some of these altcoins that less people are talking about probably have more upside in August because these alts follow Ethereum, right? So if you want to trade the merge without having to trade the merge, then maybe look at the next best altcoin. And that's why today I'm looking at NEAR, because that might be one of the next best altcoins for August. Obviously, it isn't a sure thing, but this is the price level that I'm looking at for this NEAR trade. The price level is 0. Now, this is NEAR Bitcoin, by the way. NEAR Bitcoin is the most important chart because that is showing relative strength versus the market. This is the only chart I'm concerned about right now. I'm not looking at, obviously I'll look at the price chart for my entry, but this is actually my buy signal. It's this horizontal line here, this very, very strong historical support and resistance. Ever since May, it's been extremely strong. We've bounced off it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. In fact, I'll zoom in here. 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and like obviously 10 times on the daily candle before that. We have a level of 0.000207. To make it easy, just remember 2.7. That is the level on NEAR Bitcoin that I'm looking at. Now, this is a scenario that I think could potentially play out. If NEAR can finally break this, now this trade only works if NEAR breaks Bitcoin. Why? Because that is showing Near's relative strength versus the market is actually breaking out. And we need relative strength in order to substantiate buying Near over any other project like Ethereum. Because the entire point of this trade is playing off the relative strength, essentially trying to beat the market. The only way to do that is if Near actually can clear key levels versus the rest of the market. Near Bitcoin then becomes the most obvious chart to actually track. And we have that key level that I'm pointing out for you guys that if we break, could potentially send us upwards. Now, if we look at the upside on Near BTC, there is quite a lot of upside. Obviously, it hit the highs back in January. It hit more highs in April as Near was performing ahead of its USN launch. But on the Near Bitcoin chart, there's no reason why it can't go to this next key level. The top of this fair value gap at 0.000298 would mean that Ethereum essentially gains 45% on Bitcoin. Now, that's kind of crazy. Does this mean it will go up 45% in price? No, it means its relative strength increases by 45%. And that is why this trade could potentially be a good one if Near breaks out. So the key buy condition and the only time that I will buy Near Protocol is if it can break and hold this key level. We're getting quite close. I think this trade could be very, very soon. And when I do it, I'll do it live on the show, hopefully, or at least I'll update you straight after I do it on my next show, the next show that pertains to Near specifically. And this is the key level that I'm actually looking at to buy. Why? Because that means A, it's showing relative strength versus the rest of the market, and 2, it's giving me like a verifiable indicator to trade off. Otherwise, if I go off price, there's not a great indicator as to whether Near is actually showing a little bit of strength into the conference, because we're not trading a weak Near because there's a conference. The fact there's a conference doesn't necessarily mean it will pump. We're trading a strong Near into a conference, into the ETH merge. There's kind of 3 confluence points that are lining up, or 4 confluence points that are lining up if you include the kind of macroeconomic environment slightly easing right now, considering the next FOMC is 50 days away, considering commodity prices going down, considering there's a large chance inflation goes down, and that the Fed can't really afford to hike as much the next FOMC. That is kind of like the general gist of the trade. So 4 confluence points. Obviously, the macro looks shaky with the China thing. There's a lot of other things going on in the world that could invalidate this, but that is why we're tracking Near BTC, because we have a clear validation point. Just to run you guys through what Near is, this will give us a much better understanding of how to maximize this trade, because the obvious thing is to just buy Near at this level and try and trade it pre-conference and sell into the conference hype. But then the better trade potentially is actually the altcoins, because some of these ecosystem alts could outperform Near. So just quickly to run you guys through what Near Protocol is, this will give us a better understanding of what altcoins could draw liquidity into the ecosystem to actually outperform Near over this period. Now, obviously Near Protocol, it's a heavily backed L1. It's kind of like I guess kind of like a Solana competitor. It has its own single global scaling system. It scales through sharding, something that Ethereum is implementing through the purge in 2023. Through the surge. I think Ethereum will probably get delayed again. That's usually what happens with these big announcements. So the likelihood is that Ethereum doesn't actually implement sharding to the level that Near Protocol has it until, let's say, 2024. This gives it like a solid year and a half to really get some runway going, because it is quite fast. It is quite scalable. And I think the most important thing is it's very, very backed. It's got a big team. It's got the ex-Microsoft engineer. It's got an ex-Google engineer. It's got massive war chest. We know it's got the $800 million development fund. It's got the $500 million venture capital backing. We know how important VC backing is in crypto, and we've started to see the ecosystem start to develop a little bit. We can see Near Protocol, although it has been a bear market, it has managed to sustain its TVL fairly well, going from 500 million down to 366 million, which is a much lesser of a hit compared to some of these other alts like Phantom, Solana, BNB, AVAX, etc. But this is a very important page. Why? It shows us the altcoins that we have to look at in order to substantiate our thesis here. Obviously, we've got Ref Finance, Borrow, and Metapool being the 3 biggest and the only relevant ones, in my opinion, to actually look at for this trade. Which one is actually the best? The first one is Ref Finance, in my opinion. It's at 40 cents. Its total market cap is 7 million. Its fully diluted is closer to 35 million. Now, is that undervalued? Is that overvalued? In the long term, I think it's relatively well priced for long-term accumulation, to be completely honest with you. But we're not trading this over the next 6 months. This at maximum is a couple month hold. If not, we're selling into the conference. So is Ref, how much room for Ref does it have to grow compared to Near to actually substantiate a percentage weighting here? Well, I think it could actually grow because the ecosystem coins, they tend to pump a little harder than the L1s, but the L1s offer better risk reward. So here's maybe how I split it up. Obviously not financial advice. This is all just my opinion based on my crazy ideas that I'm implementing to beat Ryan and Sheldon, frankly. But but like the kind of basis for my logic here is that, ref could actually perform versus the market, but I only want to put in a smaller percentage compared to my Near stack. So let's say I put $10,000 into Near protocol. I'd be putting like maximum 2 to 3,000 into the ecosystem in total. So 70 to 80% actually sits in the L1. It's a much safer way to trade. And I will not trade leverage. I will only trade spot. I am only trading spot for August and September. I am not trading leverage. Of course, I am with my leverage trading portfolio. Of course, my day trading portfolio in the challenge, etc. But this Near trade will be spot. If I do open a leverage position, maybe it'll be like 2 or 3x. But like that's the highest I'll go. It is a small X. Obviously, I may do little trades here and there on Near, trying to catch hypes, trying to catch wicks. If one of the altcoins pops, I'll look at buying it. But the biggest trade, the majority of my trades will be done either spot or 2 or 3x leverage, nothing higher. Maybe I'll have a little bit of a play on 7x on the breakout, but that's like a totally different trade. That's a short-term scalp. That doesn't pertain to the general gist of this video, to make that clear. So Ref Finance is one that could perform well into the conference. That is another definite one that could perform well. Metapool is the next one. Metapool is the liquid staking protocol on Near. It's kind of like Lido. So what they do is obviously you can stake your Near protocol in Metapool, get staked Near as a receipt, and then obviously use that to LP on Ref Finance, which has these pools. So on stake Near you can earn 12%. On USN USDT you can earn 19%. This is Near stable coin, and the reason behind a lot of its recent relative success in terms of TVL. You could, if we get our entry early enough, actually stake for the month and just milk out an extra few percent. That's definitely an option. Ref Finance, I mean, you got to look at smart contract risk and kind of weigh it up. Ref Finance, the risk of it getting hacked over a month and a half period, probably pretty low, in my opinion. Probably pretty low. So you probably could farm for a month, considering there's no impermanent loss, but you've kind of got to weigh up the risk reward here, right? The other important thing to note is I am accumulating Near for long-term spot as well. This isn't just one big trade. I actually do like Near for long-term spot accumulation. And, I didn't want to get too far into it in this video, but I guess the brief points behind why I like it long-term is I think obviously it has the backing, it has the war chest, it has USN, which is backed 1-to-1 with USDT. That is obviously, a big value capture and a big contributor to the liquidity that we've seen flowing into the Near protocol ecosystem. There's obviously, many other bullish catalysts, Aurora being the EVM compatible chain on Near protocol as well, kind of like the Matic of Near, which helps it scale. Not that it needs that much help because it's pretty scalable, but that's also nice having EVM compatibility for the deployment of dApps. Aurora as well. There's a few bullish narratives behind Near long term, and that's why I do spot DCA into Near. And maybe the buy that I make in August, if I end up getting this key level here on the Bitcoin chart, the buy I make in August, I may hold a percentage of that long term by all means. Like, okay, the majority I'm willing to cut by October because obviously that's, and probably most pre-conference, just in case we get a post-conference dump. But I will keep a little bit in spot to kind of hedge against an amazing announcement that no one expected and a pump. So you always got to hedge a little bit. So I'll keep a little bit in spot. And then I'll also keep a little bit in spot as a long-term bet. Is it my favorite L1 long-term? No. And I also think like it could have further downside in this bull market. It's not my favorite. I prefer Solana. I prefer like probably 3 or 4 other L1s ahead of Near. Maybe like 3. But in terms of a trade, Near could still perform the strongest in the short term. And in terms of spot accumulation, it's not a matter of whether you pick Solana or Near, guys. Okay, opportunity cost suggests you should pick the asset you believe in most, sure. But crypto isn't exclusive. It's not excluding anyone. If you like 5 altcoins, if you like 5 L1s, you can own all 5. You just have to distribute your percentages accordingly. You prefer Solana? Cool. Have 50% of those L1s in Solana and then only have 5% in Near. You believe in AVAX more than Near? Cool. Have a higher percentage weighting, but it doesn't mean we need to be exclusive. Now, obviously, the more capital you have, the more alts you can kind of spread across to kind of lower your risk. But the less capital you have, you kind of have to be a little bit more picky about where you concentrate your liquidity. So I do understand those who don't want to hold Near long term completely, because I would not hate you at all if you chose a Solana, a BNB, a Polkadot, some of these other altcoins ahead of Near. It would make complete sense. But I do think that there still is a narrative here. So you've got the Near play, you've got the Ref Finance play, which I am accumulating long term as well as a pre-conference trade. You've got Metapool, kind of weird tokenomics on Metapool, very hard to work out. I did a lot of research. Historically, it has actually kind of performed well when Near's pumped, which is one of the reasons why I put it in. But it has kind of had a bit of a dump recently. So this one is such a small percentage play. If you get into Metapool, no more than 5% of your Near stack. And then you've got Aurora, which probably can be up to 10 to 20% of your Near stack, considering it's the EVM compatible L1 on Near, much higher market cap at 100 million. And you probably want to weight it accordingly. So, you look at Near Protocol at $3.5 billion. That's its market cap. 4.5, I think, fully diluted. 3.3. So if we look at the, obviously, market cap of 3.3, fully diluted of 4.5 versus Aurora, 100 million versus 1.6, we can kind of come to the conclusion that Aurora should never breach the percentage that relative to the Near market cap, which is roughly like a third, a little more than a third. So let's say Near Protocol 70%, Aurora 30% max. And I would go even closer to like 15% on Aurora, because if you're betting on Near Protocol, you may as well just bet on Near itself, right? Like the EVM chain, although it may be very good for DeFi, it's easier to deploy dApps. You get those big like Aave deployments, etc., because it is EVM compatible. If you want to capture upside to the Near ecosystem specifically, the Near token itself makes the most sense. So I'm just going to answer a couple questions just to clear up any confusion before I kind of wrap up here and head over to Instagram, where obviously we do a lot of trades. So let's look through a few of the questions here. Ask any questions. I'll just do this for a couple minutes. Is BYBIT available in Australia? Absolutely, because I trade on BYBIT. I'm live on BYBIT, and I'm in Australia. So yes, you can. This link should be perfect, dude. Make sure you're not on a VPN. This link to sign up should be perfect, and you should be able to register here because I've done it myself, and I'm in Australia. Was VRA mentioned yet? No, unfortunately. Trader SC thinks it's a Ponzi, so like I'm just kidding, but no, VRA isn't mentioned. This is a Near Protocol video. Let me just go through the older questions. Backing miles away. Fund is important. Oh no, don't hate on Mama Sniper. I like Mama Sniper. Mama Sniper's cool, but yeah, of course, I'm go way more into fundamentals here. You guys know my logic for this ETH trade. It's into the ETH merge. With this stop and go Fed policy of easing, or not easing, but lower rate hikes over the next couple months, lower inflation over the next couple months, going into a conference with a clear break of trend on Near BTC. It's 4 confluence points. If you want to hate on me for doing a trade with 4 confluence points, you can, but like I think that's strong enough to warrant at least a little bit of capital, in my opinion. So that's why we're doing this trade. Yeah, did you hear the Fed statement today? They were hawkish. Yeah, but the market doesn't really care that much. Okay, it's down a little bit, but BTC dominance continues to go down. Ethereum continues to, keep printing higher lows. I know a lot of people are panicking, but we're still above this key level. Obviously, we got this horizontal ray as kind of this next level. But no, Ethereum is showing enough strength for me, personally, to suggest that the market does not really care because it knows the Fed's cornered. It knows we're playing chess and we got the Fed in checkmate, meaning they can't really hike rates, a whole lot more in the short term. But they're going to cause a lot of pain considering inflation is already showing signs of coming down. Just look at commodity prices, man. Look at gas, look at oil. Raoul Pal had a great tweet thread kind of going over this topic. Kind of hard to substantiate the theory that the Fed will be too more aggressive in terms of its monetary policy. Let's see. Obviously, we've had bigger shocks in history. The China situation worries me slightly, but we have to trade on the best information we have it on our table, and that's just the best information we have on our table right now. All right, someone asked what my Instagram is. That's the perfect segue to actually head to Instagram. It's Miles_Deutscher. Every single day after the show, I do some live trading and I answer questions over on Instagram. So if you guys want to head over there, there's a link in the description. And, if you follow me, I do follow a few people back. Share the love a little bit. I'll just do that now. Follow a couple of people back. People are liking my reels. I've also been posting this kind of short form content, these reels of like show summaries and then like new ideas that are shorter form. I know that not everyone has the time to watch the shows, so I kind of accepted that. Look, maybe if I start doing some shorter reels, that could be beneficial for you guys. So I post two short form videos a day, less than 45 seconds. So yeah, follow my Instagram if you're not already, and I will go live there right now. So if you want to join, we're going to be doing trading with Sounds Tricky. We're going to be going through the Bitcoin price. He wants to open a Bitcoin short, so let's see how this plans out. I don't know. I haven't really considered the short too much, but I'm going to hear his logic and we're going to have a look at if that's actually a play that we want to take. And yeah, we're going to do that all on Instagram. So if you have any more questions, you can ask them over there. Link in the description. I'm live right now. If not, I'll catch you on Sunday or Monday. I'll tweet whether I'm doing a show on Sunday. But yeah, I'll catch you in a couple of days. Enjoy your weekend. And yeah, catch you in the next one. Peace out. Says my show